Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's great to be here with you. Talking about a coach-like conversation. So this is actually where we take a lot of the things that we've been talking about over the course of the last few months now, actually, and sound. How does a coach-like conversation? Now, this is not going to go into professional coaching yet because we don't have any we don't have confidentiality things in place. But today we're going to actually describe what a coach-like conversation is. And it's a great preparation for becoming a professional coach, or at least being able to use coaching competencies in what you already do as an executive, as a parent, as a sibling, as a community leader. So here we go. My name is Peter J. Redding. I'm a master and certified coach trainer. Been doing this for 25 years. And this is my way of giving back, giving you an inside look and a track of what coaching is all about. Right? Here we go. Series 4, episode 5, a coach-like conversation and a demo. I'm going to invite one of you to actually volunteer. And if I get a volunteer, then we'll get a volunteer. Then I guess I'll have to do a soliloquy back and forth. But hopefully we'll get a volunteer to do this as we get into it. Fifth in our series of exploring the different stages of a coaching engagement and preparatory part of how do I start practicing what a coach's mindset is coming into a conversation. The use of some of the competencies that we've talked about. How do I ask questions in a coach-like manner? How do I listen in a coach-like manner? How do I for the conversation and give advice in a coach-like manner? So that's what we're up to today. Next week, I'm going to at the end of this, I'm going to invite everybody live on Facebook or through our Zoom connection. I'm going to ask you to practice this over the course of the next week. And next week, week number 7 of this series, coach-like conversation Q&A. What have you noticed? What has come up for you? Was it hard for you to give advice? So we'll have an extended version of what we start this week in next week's session as well. So right now, I'll have you come back next week. So today's agenda, what is a coach-like conversation? Okay. What are the basic elements that are contained within a coach-like conversation? A live demo, as we've just talked about, and a debrief at the end of that, and an invitation to practice and experiment with this over the course of the next week or 2 or 3. Yeah. So what is it? It's the precursor or preparation to being a professional coach. Back a couple of years, doing a workshop where the individuals didn't necessarily want to become professional certified coaches. They were in executive position. And so I came up with this coach-like conversation to start preparing them in terms of what's the mind shift away from being the subject matter expert or being the leader or being the manager of a group of people. From those things to how do I bring elements? A lot of organizations have talked about, we'd like to have more of a coaching culture. Okay, so what is a coaching culture? Well, a coaching culture is what I've tried to embody in this coach-like conversation because it has a different tenor, it has a different angle, it has a different way of and being with another human being. Again, whether they are a direct report, a sibling, a child, a spouse, a neighbor, colleague, there's a different way of approaching this from a coach-like place as opposed to whatever you've been doing in the past, okay? The precursor, it's a preparation for becoming a coach or bringing coaching skills into your way of communicating and being with other people. A great way of bringing coaching skills into your personal life and your professional life. So it may mark a different way of being with your son or daughter, with your parents, with your neighbor, again, right? It's different. So that's what we're getting into. What it is not a professional coaching session. Okay, so this is, like I say, the preparation for a real life coaching session. But in a real life coaching session, I go through contracting, I go through the description of the coach, their role as a client, if there's sponsors involved, all of the things that we've been talking about. And if you've missed some of those previous sessions, I encourage you to go back. Series 1, the ICF competencies, Series 2, the ICF PCC markers, and Series 3 was the code of ethics, okay, before we got to Series 4 that we're in now. So it's not professional coaching yet, but it is a great to prepare for it, all right? So here we go. What are the basic elements within what we're going to be doing today specifically? Basic element number 1 is a mindset. I am here to be curious. I'm here to be supportive. I love about this particular person. I'm here to listen fully to understand. Okay. So that's I come into this particular coach-like conversation that I'm going to model here again, as long as I've got a volunteer. When I see in the chat box, John sees, I volunteer, Peter. Thank you, John. So we'll get to you in a moment. Okay, so that's element number 1. It's a shift of mindset of I'm not the parent, I'm not the expert, I'm not the executive, I'm not here to give you advice, etc., etc. The mind shift is I'm here to be curious about what are you up to nowadays? Supportive, authentically supportive, not making it up just for rah, 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 but an authentic, I want to support you on your journey, your life's path, your project, whatever you're up to, okay? Element number 2 of a coach like is to be fully present. Now, that sounds easy. It sounds straightforward, and challenge with this getting into coaching. I did. I was a subject matter expert. My mind was spinning at a mile a minute, or what the case may be. So I release knowing better than they on terms of what they should do or should be towards. I release giving them advice. So no advice. I release multitasking. So I'm not going to try to do something on my while I'm doing this conversation. I'm not going to be watching TV. I'm not going to be watching a YouTube video. I'm not going to be doing 5 other things, planning, for tomorrow. I want to bring my total focus, attention, mannerisms, eye contact if I'm with them in person, on a video like we are here, 100%. And all other distractions. Okay, so if someone's ringing or whatever's coming through, I am going to be as humanly possible of not being distracted and 100% with this one person for a few minutes. Yeah. Element number 2, fully present. Element number 3, invite openness. I do this by asking open-ended questions. Open-ended questions are a question that has a of possibilities in terms of how the person I'm asking this question can answer. A closed-end question will give you the opposite of this. A closed, do you want to do this or that? Do you want to talk about this or that? Is it true that you are distracted by your child now? That's a yes or no. Yes or no. That's a closed-end question. Inviting openness with questioning, an end question is typically start with a what or a how or a when, and answer that in any manner that they choose to answer that. Yeah. Next one, compassion. I demonstrate compassion. I care about you having the best journey, the best path, clarity. As a fellow human being, I want that for you. So I can demonstrate that by, wow, well done. And it's not coming from a parental or authoritative standpoint. I'm going to try to avoid, and we'll see how we do here in a few minutes, but I'm going to try to avoid, wow, I think that's really a great choice for you. Okay, because that has a component of authority or approval coming from me, and that's not where I want to come from. My mindset is this person is resourceful, go and do and decide what they want to do. So I want to stay away from that, but I do want to show compassion. I'm authentic in celebration. So I don't, if you're not a, pom-poms, rah, 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 then don't do pom-poms, rah, rah, rah. Just, wow, okay, good work. Nice, great insight on your part. That would be much more authentic to my way and style of celebrating their movement, their willingness, their courageousness, and all those things that again may or may not come up in a coach-like conversation. I ask rather than tell. This is maybe the bottom line of this whole thing. I have in recent years about the addiction to advice worldwide, the addiction of giving advice, the addiction of asking for advice. Coaching, if it does nothing else but kind of helps to eradicate that addiction and reverses it so that the individual can develop themselves in their way of doing it, rather than my way of directing them. So I'm going to ask rather than tell. Again, inviting openness for them to share, them to talk about it, them to explore deeper or not, as the case as they wish. So again, real quick recap on how to invite openness. Ask open-ended questions. What typically is my go-to, my favorite. Create a sense of compassion for them and a caring for them. I care about your progress. I care about you moving along in the direction that you want to be moving in. Number 3, I'm celebrating them. And number 4, I'm going to ask, hopefully much, much, much more, and maybe even exclusively rather than telling them. Ask me to tell them. I'm going to resist that. Basic element number 4. They choose the topic, they choose the depth that they want to explore, they choose the possible options that they may consider if that comes up in the conversation at all. They choose the next step or steps or not. So for those of us that are addicted to, we have to have the next actions to be successful in this conversation or this, you have to decide what you want to do and commit to it. Damn it. That's now I'm driving the bus. I'm just taking over again. And that's not a coach-like behavior. So I them choose, and they get to choose. It's not up to me that they have to get it in this few minutes that we're going to be together. Okay. Element number 5. That's me. That's the person that is initiating this coach-like conversation. Okay. So you, or I'm going to use I in this case, invite or initiate the conversation. You are going to say, I hold a structure, a basic structure of what we're doing. I'm going to hold the time because we'll see what time we've got available after I do the preliminaries here, but I'll set the time and hopefully close kind of on time. All right. I hold that this person is resourceful. That's my part of the bargain here. I'm going to hold them as innately resourceful. That they can do, they can be, they can move because they are innately resourceful to. I don't have to take care of them. And I hold that they are capable. All right, resourceful as well as. That's my part in this. All right, very good. And finally, the basics is structure. So it's going to be a brief inviting them. It's going to be starting, and when I start, I'll do just a itty bitty clearing or making sure that they are fully present themselves. I'm going to invite them to share. I'm going to be curious without leading them. We'll see. And I'd be supportive without giving my advice, my judgments, my recommendations, my opinions. So this is kind of structure of 5-minute conversation, 10-minute conversation. Demo and debrief. Who is willing to volunteer? And I say, Johnsy has jumped right in this from the get-go. I love you, Johnsy. Yeah, can you unmute yourself, Johnsy?
Yes. Hi, Peter.
Oh, you're coming through loud and clear. How are you today?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How about you?
I'm fabulous, thank you. So a couple things, Johnsy, for you specifically. Are you willing to be real and authentic? This is not a role play. Obviously, you and I haven't talked this at all. So it's a surprise to me, and it's a delightful surprise to me. The other part of this is, are you willing to have this be recorded out literally live right now to the public domain by live streaming? And so are you okay with having this be recorded as well as being out to the world?
Yes, I am.
Okay, super. All right, so for the rest of you that are watching this, or actually listening to this, the basic element of structure, and I want your focus to be on me, the initiator of this conversation. You'll obviously be hearing what John we're not going to be blanking that out or muting Johnsy. He'll be live. You'll hear his voice and my voice as well. But notice how do I Johnsy into this conversation? How do I clear him, the clearing part? How do I invite him to share whatever it is he wants to share? And I still notice how I am curious, or not, as the case may be, but hopefully I demonstrate that without leading him, and supporting him by not giving my advice, my judgments, my opinions, my recommendations, and so on. Okay, so I'm going to leave that screen up. Hear Johnsy's voice and my voice as we get into this. Let me just see what time it is here. Oh, we got great timing here. So we can, yeah. So let's do an even 12-minute conversation. If it's naturally going to be less than that, that's fine. But we'll shoot for 10 minutes. And I'm saying this to the audience now. I'm not saying yet. So I'm just going to invite you just to kind of take a couple of deep breaths, kind of relax. And I will, for the purposes of the audiences and for this recording, I'm going to say that Johnsy before, so I know Johnsy quite well. He's gone through certification with me. He is a amazingly awesome professional master coach. And it's been a long time since I've had a personal conversation with Johnsy. It's been several months now that I've probably had a conversation with Johnsy. So that's the only context that I'm walking in with. And Johnsy, if you're ready to begin, just let me know that you're ready to begin.
Yes, I am, Peter.
Okay, great. Okay, so Johnsy, it's great bumping into you. It's been a long time since you and I have had a personal. I'm just curious if you'd be willing to have maybe a 10-minute chat of catching up and sharing whatever it is that you'd like to share about anything at all in your life. Would you be willing to do that? Super, super. So is there anything around you or near you that you need to attend to so that you to be fully present for let's say the next 10 minutes or so?
I'm going to lock my door.
Okay, go ahead and do that.
Thank you. Yep.
Okay, great. So like I said, it's been a long time since you and I have chatted. Is there something that you'd like to catch me up on, or what you're up to in life nowadays?
No, it has been going on really well. Enjoying the coaching journey. There are a couple of things, bothering me in that journey. That's something which I would like to discuss.
Okay, super. And so you say there's a couple of things that have been bothering you. What top 2 or 3 of those that have been on your mind?
Yeah, I think it's just coincidence that the topic was something which you spoke already. In the last 1 year, since we started the online Zoom kind of conversations, I'm very badly distracted when I'm having coaching conversation.
Okay.
And the second thing is I'm coaching a few mid managers in the leadership area.
Mm-hmm.
And in the coaching conversation, I realized that, they are lacking some skills, leadership skills. And I end up advising them.
Uh-huh.
And I do believe that they are getting the results, but I'm not sure whether I am empowering them completely. Okay. So these are the two areas.
Yeah, super. So if we were to take one of those in the 10 minutes that we have or 9 minutes that we have remaining, which one would you like to start with?
The advice part of it.
Yeah, okay. And I think what I heard you say was that in the act of giving advice, you're not sure that you are fully developed. Is that, did I hear that right?
I believe that they are lacking certain skills. For example, if they have challenge in delegation, if I'm taking that as an example,
Yeah.
I believe they do not know the basics of how to do it. Maybe that is a simplest example I'm giving.
Yeah.
Then I end up telling them this is what it is. That happens during the coaching conversations.
Okay. So first of all, great awareness on what's going on and what you're doing. And there's a desire to change it somehow. So what would that look like if you were to think about doing it differently?
Peter, could you repeat that?
Yeah. It sounds like there's a desire for you to change the modality of that a little bit from your side.
I would rather encourage than to explore a little bit. Have that skill or not?
Okay.
Yeah, I guess that's what probably I would like to do.
If they have the skills to do whatever it is that they're struggling with.
Yeah.
All right. And how would you ask them?
In example which I have given, probably I would ask, if you were to do this differently, what would you do?
Super. So I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I'm going to add a like conversation and say, if I'm one of them, I'd say, well, Johnson, you've been a manager and an executive. How did you do it? Now what do you do?
I'm so tempted. Peter. Because I often hear, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Yeah, I hear them multiple times from the coachee.
So you said you'd ask them. How would you ask them? Even when they, yeah.
What way is to ask them what would it take to learn? Okay. The other way to do it would be if you were in your team member's position, how would you like that to be handled?
Okay.
These are coming to my mind.
Yeah. And if you go even underneath all of that, what's the advantage of asking those alternative questions to telling them?
It would to explore within and see if they really have that skill or not.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
If not, probably they would take that as one of their action points from the coaching session. Yeah, then the second thing is that, that awareness comes into them that, they are lacking that skill and they need to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they need to do something else to learn that skill. I think that's what coming to me.
And how does that benefit the client?
Probably in this particular case, they are expecting the skills also to be this engagement. Which is not probably called out. That is probably something I would have missed that in the earlier conversation, or even if I realized, probably would address it separately than a coaching conversation. So maybe I need to take that out of a coaching conversation and have a separate session around that, rather than having a coaching conversation. That's another way of looking at it.
Okay. And so what's the approach that seems most realistic or most beneficial to you and that coaching client?
I think to call that out clearly to the client that, these are skill areas you need to develop, and that needs to be separately handled than a coaching conversation.
Okay.
And having separate sessions with them, developing that skill, and having coaching conversations.
Okay. So my question, I guess, at this stage is, what have you learned about the last few minutes?
Two things. I think in the beginning, I need to be a little bit more clear about the differentiation that I need to bring in with skill development and coaching, one.
Mm-hmm.
And even if I find during an engagement, there are times we might not be able to judge it earlier. So if I bring it up, if that comes up during the coaching engagement, I have opportunity to speak, to tell that to the client and take it up separately. I think that is awareness.
Super, super. Well, listen, it's great catching up with you, John C. Anything else that you want to say or share so we short catch up?
I think this has been perfect, and it's almost like a burden.
I can feel that.
Bothering me. It has been bothering me for some time, and this conversation has helped me to structure my conversations in the.
Beautiful. Well done. Well done. I know that you can be very successful at being able to do this, because I know you individually, and I know you've got the wherewithal and the motivation now to actually make a change in the way you do it and the way you communicate, both before the session as well as during the session. So catching up with you, John C. Don't be a stranger, okay?
Absolutely. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you. Okay, so that was, I think, so. I didn't time it exactly, but thereabouts. I'm going to invite everybody to type into the chat box, if you would. How was this conversation different than a managerial conversation, as we mostly know it, or a parental conversation? And just a few words, just type your observations into the chat box. And I'll open it up for some questions after. First observations. What observations? How is this conversation maybe a little bit different than a quote regular conversation? Okay, so saying it was questioning rather than telling. Yes, thank you. Catherine's got, you kept him in his head, kept him thinking. Yeah, this is his wrestle through, not mine. Now, as a trainer, I could have gone into a training modality, but I chose not to. So that's a great observation, Catherine. Thank you for that. Along directive, non-authoritative, thank you. Catherine, again, could easily become overwhelmed but in our thoughts. On track, very nice. Garrett, she found his own answers. Yeah, made him do the work. Basically made him do the work. I mean, I had all kinds of resolutions could have worked or been pontificated, but that's not the role I was in right now. John C. himself is saying, you made me think. And then think more. With a smiley face. Thank you for that. Christine is saying you allowed time for him to complete his thoughts. Yeah. So even when there was silence, it was his silence to go deeper or reflect on what to do with it. What were the possibilities for him? You did not give him advice. Thank you, Rashna. Sanjeev again, non-judgmental. Yeah. Catherine again, I love the word pontificate. We don't use it enough. Yeah, so a great example, and I dearly thank John C. for being willing to be open, real, authentic in a live session like this, so that other people can learn from the observations and from listening to this. So thank you so much for that. Yeah. Charles saying, great job. Thank you, John C., for volunteering. Yeah, and for everybody else that's not live, that will listen to this later, all of them, thank you, John C. So we're hearing this as being a type of conversation. I'm going to put this now in the context of a parent and a child, this has been used a lot in that relationship. I will tend to, I'm not a parent, so I make that disclaimer right now, but even for siblings, which I am a sibling of, two awesome sisters, two awesome younger than me. So rather than, again, pontificating or telling them what to do or giving them advice on how they should be living their lives, parents, I understand, often do, especially for their teenagers that now think that they don't need a parent, that they know everything that they need to know in their life. This is a different kind of conversation which allows the child, the sibling, the manager, the neighbor, the spouse to share. The feedback that I've been getting from all those different kinds of roles where people modality say, I learned more about my best friend in 10 minutes than I had known for the last 18 years, because I allowed him or her or they the space to share what's on their mind. again, without me being the director of traffic of the conversation. The natural thing that takes place in this, regardless of beforehand, is there's a sense of camaraderie. There's a sense of, wow, this person really cares about me and my life's journey, my path, my challenges, my aspirations. All of that takes place as a result of this. There is an absolute, I know better than you. I'm older than you, therefore I know more than you. That goes away in this kind of conversation. The other part that's taking place in this, from the feedback, all the feedback that I've received over the last 2 years of people going through this, is personal development. It's kind of like, one of my favorite sayings is, by now, is make the client do the work. Now, this isn't an official client. This is not a coaching client. This is not a formal relationship to do this coach-like conversation. And yet, even in this, even if there's no follow-up to, that we're not on a regular schedule because we're not contracted or there's no agreement in place to do that. Even in this 10, 11, 15 minute, 17 minute short session, there's a sense of personal development that can take place on the part of the person that I'm here to listen. They take ownership of whatever's going on for them. They take ownership of what they want, anything. And even if they don't have, quote, an action step to follow up on or to do, there is a sense of action of being able to say it out loud, say it to somebody that is not going to judge them or tell them what to do with it. I had the answer all the time type of, impact. It maybe out loud, or it was fuzzy, or it was unconscious or subconscious, and now it's risen a level of awareness, and so now I have something more tangible to work on. All of those kinds of feedback has come out of this really simple exercise. Yeah. So, questions or any other observations? We have about 15 minutes or so we got lots of time for, maybe you can ask it verbally rather than chat box. Any questions or further observations about this simple exercise? Or not so simple exercise, as the case may be. If you're on the Zoom, you can just unmute yourself. Charles?
Fascinating would be very frustrating for me. I appreciate what you shared. Could you just summarize the purpose of this coach-like conversation? A coaching conversation, especially if the client asks for assistance with a matter or situation.
Sure. This coach-like is taken out of the context of the overall professional coaching as kind of a one-off experience. On the coach's side, or the person that is, in this case, John C., that has committed to, okay, so every Tuesday morning we're going to get together and have a session. There's no confidentiality. In fact, as you heard me say up front, this is public. This will not be held in confidence as I would in a formal coach in a formal coaching relationship. So, because it's not part of a overall engagement with a client, coaching, I can have this kind of conversation with my siblings. Sister, I haven't talked to you in a month. What's happening in your life? And I can as a coach. I can be asking open-ended questions. I can be doing all the things that we talked about that is present, or I'd like to have present as a standalone conversation. The reason that this has been so impactful is that it supports the coach that wants to become a professional coach. They start practicing a different mindset. They practice a different skill set. They practice not jumping in or giving advice, even when the person says, oh, good, it's such great timing on this conversation, Peter. You're 10 years older than I am, and the other in the interim. What would you tell me to do? And in this conversation, I would back and say, you are an incredibly resourceful young woman. What options have you considered? What options would be best for you? Stay out of the advice giving business. So it builds my skills up as an individual for when I do want to get into professional coaching. As a sibling, in this case, example I'm using right now, is supporting them to conjure the confidence to know that they have their own best answer within them. Does that help, Charles, in terms of the juxtaposition between a professional coach and what we're doing here?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and thank you for the asking for the clarity. Other questions?
This Sanjeev here. Here is about just thinking when we brought the subject from being a professional coach to, say, coach like conversation, day-to-day life, and the family as well.
Yeah.
So I was just visualizing that if I have to do a kind of a job in an organization to bring this concept of the coaching in the organization and to bring this culture, coaching culture kind of stuff. So most of I was wondering on to bring the subject leader as a coach, not a master coach, what we're talking about, but when you talk about the culture, then leaders as a coach and the example, the live example, the demo which we gave with John C. Most probably as a facilitator of the workshop. It's a chance to give them the live demo by inviting in the close group of the audience of the leaders, saying any volunteer, and then maybe as a coach, I can ask the questions, but showcasing them that this is the way which can bring the cultural shift in the organization and show them how individual feels about when he gets the answer or she gets the answer. And if collectively it is done, what big change and shift we are talking about in the organization by identifying, empowering them and making them to grow the organization. I hope I have spoken a lot, but this was when I'm bouncing my thoughts to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sanjeev. I think it's a brilliant idea, actually, to demonstrate, again, a shift in culture, which is incredibly, people change. Have you noticed?
Yes, you're right. And a live demo is much more effective. That gives feedback to an individual and people can feel it. And then we can ask volunteer to speak how the person feels at the end and how confident the person feels, how of energy. And if that happens with him, with his superior coming and talking to him, in spite of he being the leader. And if everybody feels in that room, most probably the energy level, the confidence level, debate and discussions, everything will go in the very aligned to the organization goal. I'm just thinking aloud, speaking with you, but I'm just reforming my thought processes at the moment.
All excellent as far as I'm concerned. In fact, doing a live demo in front of a group of managers, executives, corporate leaders, and talking about a shift to a more coaching culture. Really interesting is if you had someone that could, do a live demo, and you do it like the old culture maybe. Okay, so here's how I would have interacted with this individual. I would have told them what to do. I would have jumped right in, given them 3 options. You can choose one of the 3 options, but here are the 3 options that will work. And then do a back-to-back demo saying, okay, so now I'm, put on my coaching hat. Let's redo. So I could do an instant do-over, following basic guidelines that we have here. And feel free to use those, by the way. Live demo with the same person, same issue, but don't give them advice. Resist them. Have them ask the same question if they ask you for advice. How would you want me to do it? Or debrief it without them and just saying, in the past, I would have told them what to do. Here's the option. Go do it. Let me know how it goes and come back and, we'll talk about the next problem. But to do a live demo in front of the group that would show a shift in how you approach it, how you would help again, this is all in the name of supporting the individual to develop themselves. Develop their own personal confidence, develop their own skill set, develop their own questioning, develop their own, how do I resolve this when I don't have a coach? Like in John C's case, and the beautiful example he took us through today. When this person doesn't have John C as a coach or as the workshop leader for building skills, and where do they go? How do they go? How do they do it? How do they negotiate things that they are going to inevitably come up against? And the same thing with the demo that Sanji is talking about now is how do they continue to develop their own confidence, their own skills, their own whatever. So this is a beautiful thing. I've had so many of my students. So what we do now before we do a live training, which I'm going to be starting one like literally 2 days. No, tomorrow. Tomorrow I start a 5-day training. And so for the last 2 weeks, we've supported them to do a coach-like conversation to get ready for getting into the formal training, so that they start realizing, oh, here I am giving advice again, like I've been taught to. Because I'm compassionate and I want to support my employees, my workers, my associates, to a higher level of support, which is what I consider coaching overall, professional coaching, and this is again the practice to get into that. How do I begin to develop the people around me? So that's, we got time for maybe a couple more questions or observations. Sanjeev says, thank you, Peter. You're welcome, Sanjeev. I love your idea of doing that, a live demo in front of a group. That's just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Any other observations or things that were new or different or reminders? And in the absence of that, I'm going to ask you one final question. Charles got an observation here. I would say that the exercise is more about empowerment than development. Love that. Yeah, I love that. I love empowerment. Empowering that individual to be their magnificent self. Yeah. Tanya, love this. Has just helped me reform my statement on who I coach and the big why. Lovely. Lovely. Thank you, Tanya. All right, so to finish up, I'm going to talk about next week. Just Again, we're going to continue a conversation around coach-like conversations. No, wait a minute. That's a debrief. Hold on. That's what we just did. What was different? We talked about that. An invitation to practice. So for the next week, I'm going to invite you to practice this exercise. Have one or more of these coach-like conversations on a daily basis. Do not record it. Do not give us the person's name. Next week I'll ask you what your experience was, but I don't want to know the name or the relationship to the person that you're talking about, because we will be recording it again live. So don't say, I did this with my wife, or I did this with my significant other, because somebody in the world will hear that and know that you're talking about that particular individual. So we're going to keep that out of it. No need to record it, but just make notes for yourself in terms of what was your experience? What was their experience? Okay. And we'll have a debrief of that and a Q&A about that next week. So here's some things to reflect on when you do this, hopefully on a daily basis. And if you're a journaling person, highly encourage that. I just love journaling because it gets things kind of like a brain dump. I was able to hold focus with this person X% of the time. So if it was 90% of the time or more, woohoo, well done. I listened X% of the time as opposed to talking, 90% or more, very good. I was able to hold back my opinion, advice, suggestion, what percent of the time? Again, and this is just a notice. This is not to give you a cat and nine tails to beat yourself up. This is just an awareness raising exercise for yourself. And next week we'll have a Q&A. What did you learn over the course of the last week? When we get to next week, what were some of the reflections that come out of this for yourself? And if you would, just put in the chat box right now. We have about 2 minutes left. What did you learn in this session? What awareness, what learning about yourself or about how you show up with other people? What's the new or reinforced insight or learning? Go ahead and type that in. I'll just read off a bunch of them as they come through. Just 1 or 2 words is okay. Reminder of being a coach life conversation to my everyday life more often. Nicely done. Yeah, don't have to reserve this for the formal paying clients. I can do this, use this anywhere in my life. Sometimes it's more helpful to not help. Charles, I love you, Charles. You know that. Yeah, more helpful to not help, quote unquote. Love that. I'm going to use that. I'm going to copy that liberally and unabashedly from you, Charles. Sanji, being present during a coaching conversation. Yes. Makes a huge difference. That our way we converse is impactful to the person learning of themselves in and outside of the sessions, and we are always contributing to that, whether a coaching conversation or other type of conversation. Thank you. As a coach to be, I see the importance of changing the conversation type, but I'm wondering how challenging I will find the shift. Hopefully I can support you through that shifting to actually understand and know that you're being more powerful. You're being actually more helpful, quote unquote, by not helping. See, I used it already, Charles. Coach-like conversations are so honoring and allow for deeper relationships. Very, very nice. Thank you, Rashna. Yeah, it really does. It can also repair relationships that are strained. I've had people that haven't talked to their parents or wanted to talk to their parents in 15 years, and they approach it from this standpoint of not giving them advice, not judging them for whatever they have been judging them, and it literally changes the relationship in one conversation. It opens up a new, fresh door. Thank you. So true, Peter. You'll continue to learn.
Hi, Peter.
Bye. Hello.
This is Tanya. Can I ask a question? Just I'm having trouble typing right now off my phone.
Yes, so we'll use this as the last question and we'll wrap it up. Go ahead. Go ahead, Tanya. Tanya? I think we lost Tanya.
Right.
Okay, we're
Can you
at
hear
times.
me?
I'm just going to have to wrap it up right now. Thank you for your focus. Bring your questions that you have to next week's session or type them into the chat box. I'll be looking at those over the course of the week. Thank you for coming, and be more coach-like in your conversations. Goodbye. Stay safe. God bless. Namaste.